Are you ready for Week 6 from the Flacco trade and Jake Ferguson's rise to Bills breaking out? The GOAT panel is breaking down the biggest topics in fantasy. Let's go.
Who starts? Who sits? And how to become the greatest of all time. This is the Fantasy G.O.A.T, sponsored by La Bonita Supermarkets.
Hello and welcome. This is the Fantasy G.O.A.T. I'm your host, Mike Davis, here with a great panel of fantasy football experts. Joining the show today, we have Ian Ritchie, co-founder of Full-Time Fantasy and a former #1 ranked fantasy player in the whole world. Jason Feinberg, a fantasy football enthusiast, commissioner of the Dr. Feinberg Invitational and the Manning Man Crush League. And last but not least, joining us all the way from Chicago, Dr. Nithin Natwa at Fantasy Docs on social media. So great to have all you guys with us. Let's kick things off. This year, fantasy managers with pieces of the Cincy offense have really been down in the dumps. Joe Burrow gets hurt, and suddenly the production of Chase, Higgins, and Chase Brown all drop. But another Joe is coming to the rescue now. He just happens to be 40 years old. From Cleveland to Cincy, Flacco is set to start on Sunday. 6 days on the job. He's already got the start. Ian, will Flacco save the fantasy production of the likes of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and company?
Well, that's a great question, right? Because Browning, we were expecting a lot more out of Browning, I guess is the best way to put it. I think he's going to definitely help Jamar Chase, and I think he's definitely going to help Chase Brown. Whether he helps T. Higgins, we will see. Chase Brown does need does need some dumpers, and Flacco likes to dump the ball off to the running back, so we expect him to get a lot more catches under that. And he's going to air the ball out. He's going to throw it deep to Chase, and he's going to trust him. You know, he does a really nice job of throwing those deep balls. Will he throw to Higgins? That's what we'll know pretty soon.
And each and every year we kind of say, when is the year where, age is going to catch up to Joe Flacco? And this could have been the year, because it's not like Cleveland's traded him because he was doing so well, Jason. So it's a different situation. How do you feel about him? Listen, if you draft Jamar Chase, you're playing the guy.
Sure.
But how do you feel about some of the other production?
Well, you mentioned age, and that's one thing about Joe Flacco. But another thing about Joe Flacco is his mobility. And the problem that we're seeing with Cincinnati is they can't protect the quarterback. Now you have Joe Flacco who can't move. So I don't know if he'll have time to get the deep ball to Jamar Chase. I do agree with Ian. He's going to try. He's going to get that ball to Chase. But how is he going? If Burrow and Browning couldn't, evade the rush, how is Flacco going to evade the rush? That's my big problem.
Maybe Dr. Nithin Natwa at his practice would, at this juncture, give a guy like Flacco a mobility scooter. But I'm not sure what you think, Doctor. Tell us, what do you think? Can Cincinnati and all that fantasy production from those key playmakers, will they skyrocket a bit having a better QB at the helm?
I mean, Jason brought up a great point where two quarterbacks weren't able to make it work with that offensive line. I don't know how Flacco's going to be able to do it at his age, but I do think he's got a higher just resting floor than Browning in regards to he's going to make Chase salvageable. But yeah, I'm overall just pretty concerned for the fantasy output in that offense in general. And I think that Flacco will just kind of stabilize the sinking ship a little bit, and it won't sink any further, but I don't know if he's going to really be able to bring it back that much.
Yeah, it's such a weird situation, and it just goes to show you, Ian, everybody says, safest pick in fantasy this year, #1 overall pick, you take Jamar Chase, but you see, maybe wide receivers, I don't know, maybe they're not the safest way to go. How would you advise people moving forward next year? People are probably going to be timid about Jamar Chase.
Yeah, it's very cyclical, right? So some seasons the running backs all go early, and some seasons the receivers go early. And we talked about this a little bit in the beginning of the season. The risk of taking the receivers early was not just them getting hurt, but their quarterbacks getting hurt. It's something we had talked about earlier. And so it is definitely a risk. But again, I think these guys are exactly right as far as having enough time to throw the football downfield for Flacco. But that's why we like Chase Brown getting a lot more dumpers. Get rid of the ball, get it out of his hands, and we'll go that way. As far as moving forward, I think the receivers are going to fall behind running backs next year because so many good running backs are having great seasons consistently.
We'll see some of the implications from this year that leak over to next year. Guys, some people call him Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Others just call him Bill. Yeah, I know, it's pretty weird. Either way, though, he had his breakout game last week. Is he here to stay? We'll see what the panel has to say after these words.
You're watching the Fantasy Go, sponsored by La Bonita Supermarkets.
All right, right before the season, fantasy experts were praising Washington rookie running back Jacory Merritt, a 7th-round pick. Now, he hasn't done much up until last week. 14 carries, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, Dr. Natwa, are you buying or selling Bill Krosky Merritt to be actually a league winner for folks?
And this is the time when players are supposed to break out, right? It's like the sleepers that you pick up. You don't expect them to pop off in week 1, week 2, and if you're hoping, but you expect them to kind of get acclimated to the playbook, start ramping up and start doing well, just like Bill, like Cam Scatterbo, and just, I would be holding on to him.
Yeah, I think it's obvious. I mean, with Eckler being out and all the, things going on in that backfield, it's his opportunity to shine. And clearly there's something weird going on there, Jason, because I don't know how this guy, I mean, just the eye test, he shouldn't have been a 7th-round pick in the, in the big league. But I'm curious, do you think this is the type of guy, like Dr. Natwa said, like a Scatterbo, who could be a league winner? Because people were falling in love with the Travion Hendersons of the world, all these different players. Now I pose to our producer, James, would you trade Cam Scatterbo straight up for Travion Henderson? A guy who is going 4th round. So what's your take on Bill, and do you think he really could be a league winner?
I hope so, because, I think I'm like a lot of guys that during the draft, you always want to outsmart everybody else. You always want to get a rise from everybody else that you're drafting against. And when I mentioned Jacory Merritt in the league that we're in, the Manning Man Crush, and I got a lot of crickets and a lot of people that said, you took him too early. I took him like 5th round. He was the hot name that week.
Right.
Then he disappeared. So I really hope he is the man. So just so I can show up everybody in the Manning Man Crush league. I do have him still in that league. And now I'm debating whether to start him over, only because of the defense, Breece Hall.
Right. And Breece isn't playing too bad himself. And it's interesting, though, because there is something about fantasy football where you draft a guy like Jacory Merritt, and just saying it sounds, like you feel like you got into an Ivy League school just by saying, I want to make a big announcement here, everybody. Ian, what do you think? League winner-wise, I want to know what you think about Bill Krosky Merritt, but is there any other running backs you think that are going to be league winners like him? But first, give us your take on him.
Right. No, look, I think he benefits from a running quarterback with Jaden Daniels in the same way that the next guy I'll mention is as well, and I think that helps him quite a bit. As the weather gets a little colder, we'll see if he continues to get a bulk of the carries or if a Chris Rodriguez or somebody else starts getting him to pound the ball a little bit more. But I think he's great. I mean, he's living up to what people thought he would be, an explosive back when he touched the ball, that he could take it deep every time. And last week he finally showed that he could do that. Moving forward, I think the next couple of weeks you got to start him. You got to start him every week until he proves he's not startable in your lineup. As far as other backs go, in comparison, you mentioned him, is Scatterbo. And I had my son in a league last week trade for Scatterbo. I had him trade DK Metcalf for Scatterbo to give you an idea of how high
Straight up,
because I think the rest of the year, in the same sense, with a running quarterback like a Jackson Dart, it takes pressure off the running back because then they have to have defensive tension put on the quarterback running as well, especially in an RPO situation. It opens up more lanes for them. And so I think Scatterbo is going to be great. He doesn't have anybody behind him. Singletary is not worth it. And Tracy, they obviously didn't like Tracy because they drafted Scatterbo to take his place.
Yeah. Wow. That's so fascinating. Look at a trade like that. What would you be trading for a guy like Jacory Merritt? Anything,
It's a good question.
Would you do the same trade? Would you trade a DK for a Jacory?
No. And again, it's just, for me, I'm a little bit concerned with how that role develops when the weather goes sideways. When they're playing outdoors in Green Bay or outdoors in Chicago or some of these places, it's still going to be the quick scat back guy, or is it going to be more of a pounder like Chris Rodriguez? And that's what we're going to see. And Scatterbo already has that. He's also can catch the ball out of the backfield, but nobody will ever think anything other than he's a truck. He just runs over people.
Well, listen, the best thing in fantasy football you can have or be is Ian Ritchie's son. If you can't be Ian Ritchie's son when it comes to advice, the second best thing you can do is watch the Fantasy G.O.A.T, and that's why you're here. Now, guys, don't go anywhere because there's still more Fantasy G.O.A.T ahead. All right, welcome back to the Fantasy Go. We have an obvious pick for our Commissioner's Choice of the Week. We already spoke about him. Wrecking and rolling on Thursday Night Football. New York rookie running back Cam Scattaboo rushed for 98 yards and 3 TDs, totaling around 30 points in most fantasy leagues. So he is our Commissioner's Choice of the Week. And now for our Commissioner's Choice of the Week from La Bonita, let's go shopping. Mike Davis here at La Bonita. Listen, to me, I like my food on the go. And, La Bonita, it's not only meat and produce, they also have this taqueria here where you can get fresh, hot food fast on the go. Armando's here. Armando, so much good stuff to check out. You know me, I like chicken, I like beef. What are some of the classics I got to enjoy?
So on this line, you'll find, this is guisados. They're like stews. It's meat cooked in salsa, and we serve them with rice and beans. Very traditional Mexican food. I know you're a beef guy, so I'm gonna put together this beef and red salsa we make here with potatoes.
Yeah,
I think you're
great.
gonna love it.
La Bonita, it's perfect because, you can come here, get your produce, get your fresh meat, get all the things you need for your entire family. But sometimes on the go after work, you just want some quick food that you can enjoy for dinner, and this is the way to go. You see Armando putting together, you get some beans, you get some rice, and there's that meat and red sauce.
This is a beef and red salsa we make. It's really good. I think you're gonna like it. Got some potatoes in there.
Take a look at that. That's beautiful. All to go, and there's so many things here that you can choose from. Chicken, beef, you get your fresh tortillas, and boom, you're on your way out the door, ready to go.
You're gonna enjoy it.
That's dinner made easy, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you come here. La Bonita, 7 locations, 8 on the way. And while you're watching football, enjoying your fantasy team, you can always use Uber Eats to get your La Bonita.
You're watching the Fantasy Go, sponsored by La Bonita Supermarkets.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Fantasy Goat. Mike Davis with you. So let's face it, wide receivers have just been plain weird this year. So many first and second round guys have been super disappointing. Jason, would you try to buy low on or trade for any of these guys that I'm going to list right now? Ladd McConkey, A.J. Brown, Brian Thomas, T. Higgins. Any of those guys, would you try the trade for them really low?
Yeah, I think of those guys with the situation, so that means T. Higgins would be out. I would go with Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's starting to get a little bit of mojo. He is getting the looks.
He made that nice catch on the sideline, on Monday Night Football, which looked good.
Yeah.
It's a weird team, Jacksonville, because they're winning. They got the turnover differential, which we always learn from Coach Tice on our other show here, The Coach's Cut, but Trevor doesn't look good.
Here's the thing, though. He doesn't look good, but if I can get Brian Thomas Jr., that means I'll watch Jacksonville more, and then I can see Trevor picking his nose more. So I'm in.
Hey, he's got a big nose too.
Why was that shot on for so long?
I don't know. That was weird. But Natwa, let me ask you, Doctor. I know we were talking earlier in some earlier episodes about Thomas and his wrist and all that kind of stuff. It looks like he's getting his mojo a bit back. But any of those guys I mentioned, would you try the trade for them now? I saw in one of my leagues, somebody tried to make a move just to get A.J. Brown recently. So any of these guys who have been underwhelming, are you excited about them in this second half?
I guess it's just a process of elimination. It's not really so much who's the best, but who's not the worst. And with A.J. Brown, it just kind of seems like he's not in a great mood right now, which he's given kind of the post-game pressers about saying there wasn't any kind of meeting earlier this week. He's voiced some frustrations with his amount of targets. So I'm not really sure, especially with them losing games, if there's any kind of turnaround expected in the near future. So I'll cross him off. Then we got Ladd, and Ladd seems to be the wide receiver 3 in that offense. So, I don't see how that would drastically change. You try and see if anything would change. But, Allen's already got that history. And then QJ is just kind of popping off all of a sudden. So I'm going to knock him off as well. And that kind of leaves Brian Thomas Jr., who, as he said, is kind of perking up a bit. And they're winning. So they have something to play for and stuff like that. So, by process of elimination, I would go for Brian Thomas. But,
what do you think, Doctor? Do you like Mike Evans and his or Godwin coming back because Tampa Bay has such a good look team right now? Do you like any of them?
I like Evans because I think that when he's healthy, he's a huge red zone threat, and he just does well. He's a consistent marker. So if you need someone to shore up your team, that's the guy. Godwin, I don't know. I feel bad because it's not like I want to bash on him, but he just had that ankle dislocation, and since the preseason, I've been just saying he's a do not draft, just because that's a significant injury, and that's the kind of injury that you expect a career limitation in the majority of people that suffer it.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I mean, Tampa gave him a boatload of money. New England wanted to even give him more, which is crazy. So you would think he's got to come back and get back to his old ways, especially after the season he was having last year. Now, Ian, to me, the weirdest thing is the Ladd McConkey stuff, because when I try the draft, I try to find people who got at least a little bit of a high floor. To me, I thought the type of receiver he is, the way he played as a rookie, he's got to be the easiest guy who's not going to fail you. And I took him in a league or two. What do you think's going on there, and can he rebound at all this season?
So first of all, I would tell you that Keenan Allen has just buried his value. All the routes that he was running and the catches he was making last year are all going to Keenan Allen. So what's happened to him?
Who was in Chicago the year last year?
Correct. And so now that he's with LA, he's taken everything. And so Ladd McConkey is not somebody that I'm high on the rest of the year unless Keenan Allen gets hurt. A.J. Brown, I think Nick Sirianni learned a lesson the last 2 weeks. He was pressuring to throw the ball more. A.J. Brown got his numbers, and they lost, right?
And Hurts missed him on a couple. There was one over the middle. On a crossing route. So you feel better about him.
I feel a little bit better about him, but I think they're going to start running the football a little bit more because I think they've thrown the ball a lot the last 2 weeks and they've lost, and they need to go back to running the football more. And I'm not into T. Higgins, but what I'd say is about Brian Thomas. Is this with them losing Strange and him going on the IR,
who is leading the team in targets, receptions.
That's right. I think Brian Thomas is ready to make that next stop, and I'm a little more positive on him. It's not the only man left standing. I actually am kind of bullish on him with Strange being out. Now, he got a lot of his numbers last year with Mac Jones at quarterback and not Lawrence. So to be honest, I thought his numbers would roll over, and he's been a disappointment. And watching last week, he was okay. He gave him a few more balls. Like you said, he made a nice ball on the catch on the sideline. He almost got a late touchdown. But coming out of that game, I thought to myself, he's not the first look a lot.
And what do you think? Because Travis Hunter also probably had his best game on Monday Night Football as well. If Travis starts to look like he made that big grab, he had some pretty good points. If he starts getting a little bit better, does that help Brian Thomas as well if he becomes a bigger target as well, or no?
It'll definitely help, and you could see the juice that Travis Hunter has. Right, he caught a ball across the middle. He juked a few guys. Almost got a first down there late. He made that nice catch deep. He came on well. With Travis Hunter, it depends how many snaps he's going to play on defense compared to offense. They really don't want to wear him down too much. And he really shouldn't be playing more than 75 snaps. 75 snaps total per game. So they really need to balance that and be careful. So that's the one concern I would have with Hunter.
Okay, who would have thought it after Duval? Who would have thought? 4-1, crazy stuff, right? All right, guys. Well, Jake Ferguson, he looks really good. Is the Dallas tight end going to keep up the production right now? What about when Lamb returns? We have that answer next.
You're watching the Fantasy Go, sponsored by La Bonita Supermarkets.
Yes, he is.
Would you believe it if I told you that Jake Ferguson leads all tight ends in points, and it's not even really close? He's got over 20 more points than the guys like Tyler Warren and Dalton Kincaid. So does his production continue for the rest of the season, or will something change when a guy like CeeDee Lamb returns? What's your take on this, Jason?
It's kind of a no-brainer that he won't get as many catches when CeeDee Lamb is back in the picture. But yeah, he's one of those guys kind of like Dalton Kincaid who had a great year. Everybody drafted him. Then he had a dud year for the most part.
Yeah.
And now both of them are back. So I would still play him. I just don't think he'll get as many receptions.
It's weird because he was always the tight end who's like the 7 or 8 point guy who gets drafted a little bit earlier. And now he starts dating one of the Cavender twins, and everything has changed for him and his personality and his production. So maybe there's something there. Dr. Natwa, what do you think about Ferguson? And do you think he keeps this up to any degree?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a tight end one production, but like Jason said, you have a PPR monster and Lamb coming back. So obviously with a ton, like double-digit targets to be distributed, it's going to benefit Pickens. It's going to benefit Ferguson. I think they're honestly if you have them, you should trade them because they likely weren't drafted for you as starters. And there might be people out there who are treating them as starters going forward. So if you can get that kind of value, then I'd be trying to offload them because Ferguson most likely wasn't your tight end one. So you probably have 2 tight ends. And if you have 2 tight end 1 values, you can probably offload one.
Yeah, it's probably a good move. And it's amazing what Schottenheimer has really done in Dallas from an offensive side of the ball. Defensively, obviously, you try to play anybody who's playing against Dallas, it seems like.
Yeah.
Ian, Jake Ferguson, how high are you on him? It's great because this is such a weird year for tight ends in fantasy. You know, the McBrides, the Bowers that everybody was taking early, not doing much for, injury reasons, I guess, with Bowers. But to see Tyler Warren, to see Kincaid finally popping, and now a Jake Ferguson who's always been around and in the mix. He's the top guy. What's your take on the state of the position?
Well, I think it's twofold, really. It's a lot of great play by Dak, who is really playing great football right now, the best football of his career, and doing a really great job. And secondly, George Pickens getting the trust of Dak on a lot of the deep balls and being able to go a deeper layer and creating different layers in the offense, having Javonte at layer 1, having Ferguson at layer 2, and Pickens going layer 3 really helps that 3-layer type offense. When CD comes back and starts getting 10-plus targets, it is going to drastically cut into Ferguson because there's just only so many balls to go around. Pickens has earned the trust of Dak moving forward to make big plays, so I think he'll continue to do well when CD comes back, but I think the really tough part for Ferguson is he's going to take a drastic hit.
All right, well, I wish everybody at home gets a Cavender twin for themselves.
Yes.
Dr. Natwa, like you said, maybe we should be trying to trade Ferguson right now, but I want to thank Dr. Natwa, Ian, Jason Feinberg, and producer James, editor Jess. I'm Mike Davis. Good luck in Week 6. We'll see you next time here on the Fantasy Go.